All right, we're in the initial phases of speech number 2, the informative speech, which means that we're in the invention stage, according to the canons of rhetoric, and we should be concerned with our audience, our situation, and our purpose. And from there, we're going to generate our topic. And we're going to move that topic, hopefully, towards a main idea or a thesis statement. And this video and the next video are going to help you do that. I want to remind you of the assignment description. 6 to 8 minute speech, so it's more substantial than what we dealt with last time. And I'm asking you to draw that substance not from your own personal experience like last time, but I'm asking you to draw that substance primarily from your researching. And I'm asking you to use at minimum 3 credible sources given your topic. And remember, your topic has to be one of those 2 options that I discussed in a previous video. Before I get into showing you some resources that you can use to help your researching process and topic selection, and before I show you the CSN library, I just want to start off with a few tips at the outset. Remember my discussion of process anxiety here, and now's the time to be mindful, right? Don't panic. If you're having negative thoughts, you want to interrupt those and replace those with more positive thoughts about the process here. Try to get excited and have a little fun with this speech, and it'll be a lot more pleasant experience for you. Also, it's early on in the process, but you do need to start making some choices here. You're not overcommitting to your choices, right? You're not going with the very first idea that you have. That first idea might be good, but it's likely not a finished idea. It needs to be refined or narrowed or explored more. So start making some choices here early on, but know that you're not necessarily committed to all these choices just yet. We're early on in a process, and we have an iterative process, to use the terms from our course textbook. We're involved in an iterative process, meaning we can kind of move back and forth. We can make changes as we move more naturally through our process. So remember the iterative process, and know that you still have some time to make some changes as you discover new things. So do some fishing around and do some digging into things before committing fully. And remember your SMART goals that I talked about last time. The SMART goals, of course, are specific, they are measurable, they're achievable, and they are relevant, and finally timed goals. So review that last video if you're unfamiliar with that idea, but otherwise make sure you're planning SMART goals when you're doing your brainstorming and researching here. Okay, so I want to dig into some of the resources that you'll find in the modules. We're on the module Developing Your Topic and Thesis Statement for Speech number 2. You're watching this video here. Watch this video next. And in this video here, I'm going to be talking about links and resources for researching, and then I'm going to take you to the CSN library. In the next video, I'm going to talk about the topic and thesis statement assignment. Here's a workshop that's optional through the library that I highly recommend, but there's no points for it. This is a workshop on thesis statements that's similar to the one we did at the beginning of the semester about communicating effectively online. And this one, you'll need to get the certificate and upload it here. And then, of course, there is a quiz coming up as well. All right, so let's dig into finding and researching topics for speech number 2, links and resources for researching. So the first thing I want you to consider, right, is that we're fishing around for topics. There is a discussion board right now on topic ideas. Don't necessarily commit to those things just yet. This is just to get our juices flowing, right? Ultimately, you want to funnel your idea down to something that's narrow, clear, and focused, something that's hopefully interesting, relevant, new to your audience. So I might have an idea. It's going to start pretty broad, architecture, and then my goal, My goal is to funnel that down to a specific thesis statement, right? This is going to happen over the course of time, and I'm going to be doing some researching as I'm doing this, clicking on links, finding different search terms, things like that. So architecture becomes style of architecture. I look at the different styles of architecture. Oh, I'm interested in Baroque. Baroque has certain characteristics to it, and then there are certain buildings that display those characteristics, certain specific buildings. Okay, now I'm getting closer and closer to something that I can talk about in 6 to 8 minutes that's specific and clear. This would be represented by my thesis statement. The Kölner Dome in Cologne, Germany contains the 5 main elements of Gothic architecture. Now, I wasn't able to say that to that specificity without doing some research here along the way. I'm not reading things necessarily outright. I'm using what the textbook calls lateral reading quite often, skipping around, digging into things. But ultimately, I'm paying attention to stuff that I can grab onto and stuff that I think is kind of interesting. Oh, there's 5 main elements of Gothic architecture. Gothic architecture is a thing, right? This particular building displays these particular elements of this particular architecture. That's an interesting idea. Now, your process won't be that linear. Remember lateral reading and the iterative process. As you're looking for topics, you have that discussion board. That's great, but you can spend some time fishing around too on the web. I put a bunch of local sources of inspiration. Nevada Public Radio. Here's some magazines that are really cool that you might check out. And this is maybe not necessarily to give you specific source material that you can use in your speeches, but this could spark ideas, help you find search terms. Here, similarly, if you're looking for world-changing topics, I just put a link to some popular press lists of world-changing things. So look through those lists, see what inspires you, dig deeper in. This is just to get you started, to get your mind working. You should do your own searches and your own brainstorming, but at some point you need to select a topic, you need to make a choice, and you should be looking for things that are new, relevant, or interesting. So as you begin your researching, your goal is to narrow your focus and develop that into some sort of specific thesis statement. And I'm going to talk more about interesting thesis statements in the next video. To find supporting materials, you're going to have to use search engines most likely. Of course, you can go and physically find physical books and magazines and libraries and other places. Most likely, you're going to be doing some virtual online researching, I imagine. CSN Libraries is definitely a source I want you to give a try. It might be useful for this speech. It'll more likely even be more useful for your next speech, speech number 3. I'm going to go there in just a minute. Another search engine you might consider using is called Google Scholar. It'll give you good quality academic sources. The difference between these two, right, they're both what the textbook would call scholarly, or they both can give you access, to scholarly sources of information. But this is a closed system. The CSN library is a closed information system. Google Scholar is open. So CSN is going to give you better stuff, better quality stuff, and access to things that you can't get to through the free web. And of course, you can use any other search engine. Google is a fine search engine to help you find stuff. Google itself is not a source of information. Similarly, I want you to treat Wikipedia that way as well. It's a good starting point, it's a good search engine, but it should not be used as a source of information that's cited in your speech. Use it to find other sources, use it to find search terms, to use it to find topics. What are you looking for? You're looking for different information types, what the textbook calls information types, what the modern Language Association has taken to calling containers of information. I'm used to the term from not that long ago, medium of publication. So what is the medium in which it was published? Okay, what's the thing that holds the information. What's the thing you're looking at or listening to? Is it a radio interview, right? On a particular radio show that you can cite specifically. It's a container of information. If you draw information from that radio show, you cite the radio show. Books are containers of information. Edited books and anthologies, newspaper articles, academic journal articles are good sources of scholarly materials. Magazines, articles on a web page, especially reputable web pages, not commercial web pages, edus, .orgs, depending on how activist they are. So you definitely need to consider the credibility of the sources. Documentaries, transcripts, podcasts, again, reputable podcasts, promotional materials, artifacts. All of these things can contain information. Okay, I made another note here about Wikipedia, apparently. Okay, so from within those containers, or what the textbook calls information types, you're finding your supporting materials, you're finding your information. So what are you looking for? You're looking for specific information that you can cite in your speeches. Facts, ideally, right? Things that you have a good idea that they're true things. Expert opinions, statistics, studies, experiments, survey results, witness or participant testimony, examples that you might use in your speeches, definitions that can help you define things in your speeches, stories that would be interesting for highlighting an idea. Visual aids can also be used as source material for your speeches. Okay, so here on this source, I'm going to talk about how to use CSN Library. This is for your reference and to remind you. I'm not going to read it to you right now. I'm just going to go to the library. I do want to remind you that very rarely do we find what we're looking for right away. So you got to get used to multiple searches, multiple attempts, multiple search terms. One thing you might consider doing, if you can, is to generate your own source of information by doing your own interview. If you know somebody who's an expert or has direct experience beyond the normal experience with the topic, you could interview them and you could cite that. This gives you information on how to do that. And the last thing I just want to remind you on this page is that you should use your sources to find other sources of material. So if a source names its sources, check those things out, look them up directly, see if those provide other information that might be useful to you as well. If you talk to a person, ask them if they know other people. And click on links, use lateral reading techniques. All right, let's check out the CSN Library page. This is the CSN Library page right here. It's blown up a bit. Let me try to shrink it down. And so it has its own search engine right here. That's like the main. It'll search everything in the library. It's not that useful, quite honestly. Give it a shot. You're not going to waste too much time with it, but it often won't give you very good results. You're better off browsing by database. Yeah. If you have a particular article and you have the information from that article, then just search for that article directly through Find Articles. Same thing with Find Books. If you know the book directly, search that. Otherwise, I really recommend using the databases. But let's just take a look at what happens when we start. Look, you can see I was doing research for the earlier lecture at the beginning of the semester. But let's say I just went to this place called Area 51. You might have seen it on Area 15, excuse me. There is also Area 51, but I just went to Area 15. It's right off of Interstate 15. It's some new commercial space, right? So let's say I wanted to give my speech on that. I want to do some research. I went, that's good, but that doesn't really give me that much information going, right? All right, so Area 15, I search that, and boom, look what happens. Not much is going to happen, I hope. Well, I don't hope, but that's the truth. It's searching everything in the library, and look at it's searching the word area and the word 15 separate. So here's something about nature, right? I don't even know. I'm not even going to start because I know these are just bad. They're not going to help me with this Las Vegas thing, right? So one thing I could do is put it in quotation marks. This is important because now it will search for area and 15 exactly like that. It has to be in that order, look just like it appears within quotes, and maybe I'll get some better results. But remember, I'm searching like everything in the library right now. So anything that has area and 15. And yeah, the first thing right here is about disinfectant for area 15. I'm not even sure what that is. Area colon 15. So nothing with good results. So that's what I expected. Don't use the search bar and expect good results. Let's dig into the databases instead. I mentioned on that previous page some databases that you want to look out for. Here's another list that the library provides you. This one, Las Vegas News Bank, local sources, pretty good. So I could just go straight to that Las Vegas News Bank source and do that kind of searching. Before I do that, though, I want to show you these databases are listed by subject in this list right here. That's pretty nice. So if you know that you're looking for something that deals with economics, go right to all the economics databases and search that. So if you know you're talking about art, 20 databases about art there. So I want to use this Las Vegas, Nevada News Bank because I know it's likely that Area 15 has been written about. I'm going to, again, use my search term in quotation and see what I get. Look at it's going to search all these local sources here. I'm pointing. All these local sources right here. So let's do it. Let's search them and see what happens. And again, it's probably not going to give me something I want right away. I got to look down in it. Lucky Day is moving into Area 15, so that's something I might actually be able to use. I'm not even going to click on that. It doesn't interest me. I'm going to keep going down. Ooh, Area 15, the Raiders are going to have a party there. My disk is almost full. Oh, boy. And I keep going down. Okay, I'm getting stuff. Meow Wolf. Okay, that's interesting to me. But I want to try to narrow my search terms down even more and see if I get better stuff. I'm going to put the term opens in here and see what happens. And I think I'm going to get better sources because I did this before. Same one comes up at the top here. Oh, Todd English is opening up a restaurant in Area 15. 20 Things to Do, Area 15 is one of them. A Blue Man is at Area 15, one of the Blue Men from Blue Man Group. Construction begins. Ooh, a article in the Las Vegas Sun. That's pretty good. Area 15 to offer an array. This is also from the Las Vegas Sun. So now I'm finding stuff, right? And I could keep searching, use different search terms to help me do it. I decide as I'm doing this that I'm not even interested in Area 15. I decide I'm interested in Meow Wolf, who's going to be there. And so I start searching for stuff for that maybe. Okay, let's say you're using a non-Las Vegas topic. Let's see what happens. I'm going to use Academic Search Premier right here. General academic search engine and database. And I'm interested in, again, Gothic architecture. Let's say Gothic architecture. And I know I want to find specific cathedrals, Gothic architecture cathedrals that might display Gothic architecture. Oh, look at right there. There's an encyclopedia entry. Gothic architecture in a particular building. Great. Gothic cathedral, the Gothic cathedral. Probably going to talk about lots of Gothic cathedrals. It's a full text book. So as I'm searching, I'm looking, I want to make sure things are linked to full text. I can even click over here and have it filter out anything that's not full text. And this means that all this stuff I can get and I can look at and I could potentially use. I'm not going to read them all right now. I'm going to gather them and then I'm going to start picking through them and reading bits and pieces of them and trying to determine which ones I want to read in whole. Okay, so remember there are other databases. There's databases by subject. You got to do lots of searching. You got to use lots of databases. You should use the closed pay system of the CSN library. And of course, you can do your own searching on other databases that are more free and accessible, but will have not as credible sources as well. So that's really all I wanted to show you in this video. Was an initial searching for your topics. I hope it was helpful for you. Tune into the next video for thesis statements.